Lets it fly. R-I-D-I-C-U-L-O-U-S. Ridiculous.
They're going to have to trade the run for the out. The throw over to third. Ball game.
Wow. The fifth year to try and put it away with an ace. That's a storybook ending.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's time for episode 37 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Last week, I gave you the anatomy of a 15-0 start in the NBA. The Cavaliers came up just a little bit short of that 2015-16 Warriors record streak. They would have needed 24, and although they lost one to the Celtics to snap that streak, they're still a cool little footnote in the history books, and they should continue to be the NBA title favorites until further notice. Then you heard Fantasy Football Friday number 6. The trade deadline came and went in all leagues as far as I'm aware this week. And if you paid attention to my trade and waiver wire suggestions, hopefully you're in a good position to make the playoffs and win yourself a chip. I also reviewed my MLB postseason awards picks from the All-Star break, and I'm still beaming over those because my guest Hunter Myers and I really showed out on them, going 6 out of 8. Now for one of the greatest American traditions. Of course, I'm going to try to push this out in time for Thanksgiving. I got to be sure that all of these predictions for the Thanksgiving Day NFL games can blow up in my face. As always, we have 3 games to watch and or take a nap during. That depends on the size of your meal and maybe who the Giants start at quarterback. But seriously, the early game is Lions-Bears at 12:30. Don't overthink this one and act like Chicago is as good as they showed the first 5 weeks of the year. They have lost a couple of heartbreakers, most notably, of course, the Hail Mary to the Commanders, but now they're just a little bit improved from last year's 3-win team, and that kind of shows up every week. 25th ranked passing offense, well, a little bit better. 23rd ranked rushing offense, no better than middle of the pack in anything. Caleb Williams is like every other rookie quarterback. He needs more time, even though he shows these flashes and he looks really good and can give them some fun, unique things at times. However, Caleb will definitely be turning the ball over at least twice in this one. The Lions are the juggernaut of the NFL right now at 10-1. The Chiefs have the same record, but they're literally a couple of plays away from being, 6-5 or 5-6. Detroit's at or near the top of pretty much every statistical category that matters, besides being the 25th ranked passing defense. Even then, that's kind of just a product of being up on teams so much that everybody has to throw it all around the yard. It's not overly bold at all to say that the Lions are going to run for 3 touchdowns this week, because they kind of seem to do that every week. Other predictions, I think the Lions hit some fun trick play, like there was that hook and ladder that they tried to Penei Sewell, their right tackle in the Titans game, or maybe it's a fake punt for a big gain. And they'll also probably go for it on a bunch of 4th downs because this is Dan Campbell. That's what he does. Let's say they go at least 3 of 3 there. The Bears will hit 1 or 2 big chunk plays in the air, right? Caleb Williams has that ability and he's got the weapons. And a crazy note on the Lions defense here. They haven't given up a touchdown in their last 10 quarters. Aaron Glenn will be a head coach somewhere next year. That's kind of unrelated to just this week, but how's that for your bold predictions? Anyway, I believe that streak will end in the first quarter. The Bears will get a touchdown up there, but they're still going to come up way short. I'm calling this one 34-17 Detroit. The 4:30 game is, oh boy, not going to be pretty. The Giants and Cowboys are disasters, playing without their criminally overpaid quarterbacks. You probably heard that New York just cut Daniel Jones this week, and he actually already signed with the Vikings to go back up Sam Darnold. He's going to make about $375K for the rest of the year. After that extension was, of course, $160 million over 4 years. We're now on track to get the coveted Drew Lock versus Cooper Rush matchup on Thanksgiving. Tommy DeVito was the Giants' 3rd quarterback most of the year, and then for whatever reason, Drew Lock got skipped right over as the next guy up. DeVito started 1 game, and now it's rumored that he might need Tommy John surgery on his throwing arm, so there is a golden opportunity here. Both of these teams are all but mathematically eliminated, so they ought to make this sort of a tank bowl. And to clarify what I mean by that, it's a game where nobody should really try too hard to win it, because if they win too many down the stretch, then it would hurt their draft position in April. The Cowboys have their own quarterback issues, of course, having lost Dak Prescott to the hamstring injury. They've been playing Michigan high school football legend Cooper Rush ever since. Unfortunately, all the magic he had back then and even in college has worn off. The Cowboys' run game is ranked second to last in the league, and they haven't scored a single rushing touchdown at home this year. You should have gotten a couple by complete accident by this point. Cooper Rush is also attempting more passes than he should. He just threw a career-high 55 passes 2 weeks ago against the Texans. But ironically, that formula kind of worked against a pretty good Commanders team last week. Oh yeah, and Dallas returned 2 kickoffs for touchdowns, one of which was an onside kick. The other one was muffed around by their returner, Kevontae Turpin, and then he hit this disgusting spin move. It was the B button on Madden on Xbox, if you will. That game was just positively bonkers. What will happen in this game on Thanksgiving? Well, like I say, I imagine quite a boring game. I'm guessing at least 7 punts on each side, less than, say, 550 yards of combined offense, and maybe if we're lucky, 3 total touchdowns. I hope I'm wrong about this one and it's actually kind of fun, because I'd rather have shootouts all day long when it comes to holiday games. Let's go with Giants 16-10, and I imagine this will be the lowest scoring game all week, not just of the Thanksgiving slate. The night game is the Dolphins and Packers. I fear Tua Tagovailoa might make an appearance because the narrative on him has been set for a long time. He cannot play in the cold. He's never once won a game playing under 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Considering how much winning he's actually done as a starter, that's shocking. Then you add on the fact that the Lambeau environment is so crazy hostile and loud, and it's obviously a great home field advantage, and I think the Dolphins are in a lot of trouble. They're 5-6 coming in, and they're going to have a tough time making the playoffs no matter if they win or lose this one. Jonnu Smith may be my best fantasy waiver wire pickup all year long, and he is definitely the X factor in this one. They love to move him around all over the place. He can play fullback, inline tight end, he can play the slot and all of those things. And he has 15 catches on 19 targets, 3 touchdowns with 188 yards the past 2 weeks. It's the definition of unsustainable, in the long term at least, right? But I'm going to go out on a limb, play him in both my fantasy lineups, and say he still has a very good game in the cold. Give me at least 5 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown for the Dolphins tight end. The Packers are weird this year, right? Jordan Love was one of the league's biggest breakout quarterbacks last year, and he should have been in a good spot coming into this year. Now he's thrown an interception in 8 straight games. I believe that's the longest current streak in the league. And they're now really getting away from throwing more, and they're starting to hammer the run with Josh Jacobs. That is a very good idea. Jacobs has carried the ball 18 and 26 times in their last 2 games, both wins, with 4 touchdowns in that time. Their defense shouldn't have been all that good on paper, the Packers that is, but it kind of is. 10th ranked scoring defense, that's enough to win really almost every week, even in a fantastic division in the NFC North. The Packers are 8-3, and they've only lost to the Lions, Vikings, and Eagles, any one of which I think could go to the Super Bowl, but they're almost guaranteed not to win their own division because they would lose the head-to-head tiebreaker, obviously with the Lions or the Vikings. If they finish 3rd in this division and they end up, 12-5 or 13-4, they'll be upset about it. That would also be insane, but it seems super likely right now at the same time. The other predictions, both running games should have a pretty good day. Teams that run the ball in the cold just flat out win games. The Packers are way more physical and they play with more heavy personnel, but the Dolphins' entire roster has been built around speed from offensive playmakers for the last several years. I'm going to say both running games go over 125 yards or so, and both quarterbacks probably look a little bit pedestrian. We'll say under 225 yards each. Still, I think both Tyreek Hill and Jonnu Smith are going to get into the end zone for Miami, and I think they'll be just desperate enough to pull this upset off. Jordan Love throws a 4th quarter interception to seal it, and we'll say the Dolphins win this one 23-20. I'm even going to try and pick the Black Friday game. I say try as if this isn't a foregone conclusion. It's the Chiefs and Raiders, and, Vegas will not be pulling off this upset. I'll just get ahead of that right now. The Raiders just lost their quasi-starting quarterback Gardner Minshew to a broken collarbone. They had one of the worst quarterback rooms in the league heading into last week, and yet it continues to get even worse. Aiden O'Connell is the other guy who's kind of dabbled in playing quarterback for them the last 2 years, and he's still on IR at the time of recording, which is particularly scary. However, the Raiders have officially said that they plan to have him active and to start this game. Probably not going to make a difference, but if by chance Aiden O'Connell can't go, it would be Desmond Ridder, the Falcons cast-off, stepping in and probably getting beaten by KC just as badly. What do I actually expect to see in this game? Well, last year was the first Black Friday game between the Jets and Dolphins, and it was arguably the beginning of the end for the Jets. That team has probably never recovered. They gave up a 100-yard pick six on a Hail Mary right before halftime, and they got eaten alive by Tyreek Hill in that game. I could imagine something real similar happening to the Raiders, but I'm guessing it'll be Travis Kelce who really tears them apart. The Raiders' two bright spots are still Max Crosby on the defensive line and Brock Bowers, of course, at tight end. And I do think those two will dominate, but it's just not going to be nearly enough. I haven't really mentioned Brock Bowers since the draft recap, but he might turn out to be the best rookie tight end ever if he can keep up his pace. He's already 7th in yards and 3rd in catches for a rookie tight end for a season, and he's even top 10 in the league in yards overall. It was the Lions' Sam Laporta last year that rewrote the record book, but now I fully believe Brock Bowers is going to one-up him in everything, except total touchdowns, right? Bowers needs 12 total catches and to average about 50 yards a game down the stretch to get the record for both catches and yards there. Remember, the Jets drafted a backup offensive tackle over this guy, and he is already a top 3 tight end in the league. That is so Jets. Chiefs are going to put on a curb stomping here, and I think this will be the biggest blowout of the week across the league. I'll take KC with at least one defensive touchdown, and probably a big day for Kareem Hunt on the ground. We'll say over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Chiefs by a bunch here, 31-7. If I'm wrong and not even close on all of these games, then please let me be wrong in a direction that's exciting. You know what I mean? Let there be good football to watch, because on this glorious day of Thanksgiving, we deserve it. Last thing for today, I don't want to keep you too long. It's official, the MLB free agent craze just kicked off, and the champs are the ones to make the first big move. I couldn't believe it waking up Wednesday morning and then hearing that the Dodgers had signed 2-time Cy Young winner Blake Snell. I mentioned back in the middle of baseball season that I am a generational hater of Blake Snell. A lot of that comes down to his attitude and his kind of superiority complex and all that stuff. I was happy to see him go unsigned last year right up until the end of spring training, but he did eventually land with the Giants and had a good year in 2024. He only made 20 starts because, like almost every other year of his career, he had injury issues, but he still managed a 3.12 ERA at 31 years old. Like every other big deal for a veteran starter, the big thing I want to talk about is what the Dodgers are getting, but the details of the contract, well, they're a big deal too. So it goes like this. Blake Snell signed for 5 years and $182 million. That's the 3rd most total money ever for a left-handed starting pitcher, only behind David Price with the Red Sox and Clayton Kershaw with the Dodgers. You're talking one, borderline-ish Hall of Famer and one inner circle guaranteed first ballot guy. That's how highly they think of Blake Snell, apparently. His Cy Young seasons are the only 2 where he's ever been healthy enough to throw a full year and even gone over 130 innings. That's nuts to me. All of this to say, of course, the risk is pretty massive. The talent is also absolutely immense, right? He currently has the all-time career Ks per 9 record, among qualified starters at least, at over 11.2. It's sort of a minor record, again, one of those career footnote type things, but it speaks to how nasty he can be. The Dodgers only had 3 healthy starting pitchers down the stretch this year, and they had a shocking list of pitching injuries just throughout the entire year, so of course I see what they're on about. But they should have Shohei Ohtani available to pitch next year too. Too much money even for a 2023 Cy Young, if you ask me. I'm thinking about kind of MLB power levels here too, so to speak. I mentioned a few weeks ago that the Tigers lowballed Tarik Skubal on their first extension offer to him. He's 5 years younger than Blake Snell and a better pitcher right now by far, so what does Skubal deserve? Based on this deal, it should be, at least $40 million a year. The Dodgers have handed out 5 deals worth at least $100 million total in the last year, the same number as the entire rest of the league combined. I hate this kind of team-building strategy, and I wish it wasn't quite so possible to turn dollars directly into wins, but it is. We're just faced with that reality. Now the worst part is you can't even use the old Dodgers narrative that they can have all the regular season success and spend all this money, but they still fall apart in the playoffs. Blake Snell is a good ad objectively for them, but I do not like the contract figure at all. Still, if LA can repeat in the World Series, then come early November of 2025, feel free to come at me and tell me I'm a layman. So, that's about all I have today. I'm on to high school and college basketball seasons and almost done with the second term of my master's. When it comes to fantasy football, trade deadlines, like I say, are now passed in all leagues that I know of. Your only option at this point for making roster changes is through waivers. Good luck finding anybody actually worth putting in your lineup there, unless there's a major injury to a contending team, which could certainly happen. In that case, you gotta pounce as soon as you can to try and get whoever their injury replacement is gonna be. I don't believe I ever talked about how I fared in my powerlifting meet last month, but you can feel free to look it up on Open Powerlifting. I was happiest about hitting a 3 times bodyweight squat out of everything that I did in the meet. I'm already prepping for my next one, and if everything goes according to plan, that'll be the weekend before the Super Bowl. I still plan to get more into strength sports here on the podcast, so I'm thinking about trying out a bit of that next week. You know how the rest goes. Whatever else catches my eye is always on the table. And remember, connect on my socials, leave a like, comment, and share. All the good stuff. And of course, for this special holiday, want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. This has been episode 37 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Thanks for joining me.
Upfield, lets it fly. RIDICULOUS. Ridiculous.
They're going to have to trade the run for the out to throw over to third. Ball game.
The fifth year to try and put it away with an ace. That's a storybook ending.